They call me the most optimistic man on Wall Street. Some say I'm naive. Some say I'm lucky. But the truth is, I just never lost faith, not in the market, not in people, and not in the future. My name is Tom Lee, and this is my story. I was born in Ohio, the son of Korean immigrants who didn't have much except discipline, humility, and a dream. My father worked long hours in engineering. My mother balanced everything else. They didn't talk about wealth or Wall Street. They talked about stability, education, and gratitude. We weren't rich, but we were determined. When you grow up watching your parents stretch every dollar, you learn quickly what money means and what it doesn't. It doesn't buy peace. It doesn't buy love. But if used wisely, it can build a life of choice. That belief never left me. At the University of Pennsylvania, I studied engineering not because I wanted to be an engineer, but because I wanted to understand how complex systems work, how pressure, equilibrium, and flow interacted. Later, I realized those same dynamics apply to markets. Markets are machines, emotional machines powered by human psychology. Fear is the pressure, greed is the release, and somewhere in between is balanced opportunity. After college, I landed an entry-level analyst role at JP Morgan. It was everything you'd expect: long hours, endless spreadsheets, and a culture that rewarded survival. But I loved it, because buried in all that chaos was truth, data that didn't lie, cycles that repeated, patterns that whispered stories. I wasn't a gambler. I was a student, and the market was the best teacher I ever had. Over the years, I learned something simple, but powerful. Markets don't move on truth, they move on emotion. When people panic, prices collapse. When people believe again, prices rise. My job wasn't to predict emotions, it was to stay calm while everyone else drowned in them. I eventually became a managing director, one of the few Asian Americans to hold that seat. It wasn't easy. You had to be twice as prepared, twice as disciplined, and twice as humble. But the market doesn't care about your accent, your background, or your story. It only cares if you're right eventually. Then came 2008, the financial crisis. Lehman Brothers gone, panic in the streets, people losing homes, jobs, hope. I saw friends break down at their desks. I saw analysts who'd been right for 10 years wiped out in 10 days. The market didn't just crash, it cracked our faith in the system itself. But I remembered what my father used to say: when everything around you is shaking, that's when you find out what you truly stand on. So I didn't sell. I didn't hide. I studied the rubble. And what I saw was what I'd always seen: the seeds of recovery. Because every collapse plants the roots of the next bull market. In 2014, after 25 years at JP Morgan, I walked away. I wanted to build something that didn't just react to fear, something that could decode it. That's how Fundstrat Global Advisors was born. A small team, built on data, history, and the courage to see beyond headlines. We weren't just watching numbers. We were reading emotion, the silent variable that drives everything. Most analysts follow consensus. We challenged it. We asked, what if the crowd is wrong? What if the story everyone believes is only half true? Then came Bitcoin. At first, people dismissed it. They called it a joke, a bubble, a toy for hackers. But I saw something familiar, the same emotion I'd seen in the early days of the internet. When people mock an idea loudly, it usually means they're afraid of how big it could become. So I began analyzing crypto not as a fad, but as a market evolution: decentralization, transparency, programmable trust. Those weren't slogans. They were blueprints for the next generation of finance. In 2018, when Bitcoin fell from $20,000 to $3,000, I went on CNBC and said I was still bullish. People laughed. Memes circulated. They called me Crazy Tom. But I wasn't guessing. I'd seen it before: 1987, 2000, 2008. The script never changes. First they doubt, then they mock, then they chase. And when crypto came roaring back, people finally understood what I'd been saying for years: volatility is not risk. Volatility is the price you pay for opportunity. In 2020, the world faced another collapse, this time invisible: COVID. Markets froze. Fear went global. I watched entire economies shut down. For weeks, the S&P 500 looked like a waterfall in freefall. And yet, deep down, I knew what would come next. Because the market doesn't just measure profit, it measures human resilience. When government stepped in, when innovation adapted, when the world pivoted to remote life, it wasn't the end. It was rebirth. I went on air again and said, we're going to recover faster than anyone expects. They said I was too optimistic. But optimism, to me, is just realism filtered through patience. By 2021, the same voices that called for collapse were now calling for bubbles. And I smiled, because that's the rhythm of cycles. The same market that breaks hearts also builds empires. If you zoom out far enough, all crashes look like noise, and all recoveries look like destiny. But there's one story I've never stopped following: Ethereum. To me, Ethereum is more than a coin. It's digital infrastructure, a programmable foundation for everything the next generation will build: finance, art, identity, governance, energy, even truth. While Bitcoin is digital gold, Ethereum is digital civilization. It's the operating system for the next internet, decentralized, permissionless, and global. I've run the numbers. I've studied the chain activity, the developer metrics, the network effect. And I'll tell you this, as I've told every investor who listens, Ethereum has the same asymmetry of potential that Apple and Amazon had in their early days. It's still misunderstood, still underpriced, still early. That's why, no matter how volatile markets get, I stay bullish. On Ethereum, on innovation, on the human spirit that creates both. People ask me what keeps me going after 30 years of chaos. The answer is simple: faith. Not blind faith, data-backed, battle-tested faith. Faith that innovation always wins. Faith that cycles always turn. Faith that if you believe in the right things long enough, the world eventually catches up. That's not optimism. That's history. I'm Tom Lee, and I've seen markets rise, crash, and rise again. I've seen fear turn into wealth, and I've seen one truth play out over and over. The future always belongs to the patient. And right now, the patient should be looking at Ethereum, because cycles come and go, but conviction compounds forever. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights into the future of markets. See you next time.